All right, folks, buckle up because we're diving into something very important today. I just went through the speech in support of H.R. 3838, the National Defense Authorization Act, for fiscal year 2026, also known as the SPEED Act. And let me tell you, this is one of those moments where we get to see exactly where our country is heading when it comes to national defense, global competition, and most importantly, protecting the freedoms we hold dear as Americans.
I rise in support of H.R. 3838, the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2026, also known as the SPEED Act. I would like to begin by thanking Chairman Rogers and Ranking Member Smith for their leadership in bringing this bipartisan legislation to the floor for the 65th consecutive year. The Intelligence and Special Operations Subcommittee portions of this bill, in conjunction with approximately $2.2 billion in reconciliation funding, continues to focus on providing our Special Operations Forces, the defense enterprise, and the security cooperation enterprise with the tools required to ensure their capabilities can support the department's efforts in strategic competition and in countering malign PRC actions. This bill supports critical platforms like the V-22 and the MV-75, which are assembled in Texas' 13th Congressional District. This legislation also provides the U.S. Special Operations Command with the ability to accelerate research, development, testing, and procurement at speed and scale to affect outcomes against adversaries through the Urgent Innovation Technologies and Capabilities Pilot Program. The authority for SOCOM, combined with the Defense Intelligence Enterprise and the Defense Security Cooperation Agency's efforts, will continue to be our strategic hedge against an increasingly contested and denied battle space by peer adversary capabilities and malign influence. We will enable leaders to make informed decisions in an increasingly complex world, enhancing the U.S. military's lethality across the board. Finally, this bill, coupled with reconciliation, is just the beginning of the increased resourcing needed to ensure our Special Operations Forces, the Defense Intelligence Enterprise, and the Security Cooperation Enterprise can support the Department's efforts in strategic competition and countering malign influence. We owe it to the men and women who volunteer to serve in these roles, our special operators, uniform and civilian intelligence personnel,
time has expired.
And security cooperation personnel to equip
Gentleman's
them
time has expired.
with the capabilities. Thank you. I yield back.
Now, before we get into the weeds, let's acknowledge something. This is the 65th consecutive year Congress has brought this defense bill to the floor. 6 to 5 years. That shows consistency, but also a reminder of how critical this legislation is to our national security. And here's where I come in as a patriot. We cannot afford to get soft, not now, not ever. The threats facing this nation are very real, and our enemies are not waiting around while we bicker about pronouns or play political games in D.C. This bill allocates around $2.2 billion in reconciliation funding, specifically targeted for our Special Operations Forces, the Defense Enterprise, and security cooperation. That's not just some random budget line. That's money that ensures our guys on the front lines, the tip of the spear, are equipped, trained, and supported to outmatch our adversaries. Let's be clear here. We are in an era of strategic competition. And who's our biggest threat? The Chinese Communist Party. The PRC is not just another competitor. They are an adversary that's been infiltrating our economy, our schools, our technology, and even our government for decades. So when I see legislation that directly calls them out, I say, finally, some common sense. And let's not miss this. The bill highlights platforms like the V-22 Osprey and the MV-75, both assembled right here in Texas's 13th Congressional District. That's American jobs, American industry, and American ingenuity, fueling our national defense. Folks, we've got to stop relying on foreign supply chains. We learned during COVID how dangerous that is. We need to keep our manufacturing and defense production right here at home, in Texas, in Ohio, in Alabama, wherever it can thrive, because when push comes to shove, it's our factories and our workers that keep this country safe. Another piece I really liked, the Urgent Innovation Technologies Pilot Program. That's giving SOCOM, our Special Operations Command, the tools to research, develop, test, and procure faster. Let's face it, our government usually moves slower than molasses. Meanwhile, China is stealing our patents and building weapons overnight. So if this program actually cuts the red tape and gives our warriors what they need quickly, I'm all for it, because war doesn't wait for bureaucracy. Here's the thing: the battlefield has changed. We're not just talking boots on the ground anymore. We're talking cyber. We're talking space. We're talking contested air and sea lanes. Peer adversaries, Russia, China, even Iran, are pushing hard to deny U.S. access, to challenge us in every sphere. This bill, from what I see, sets us up with that strategic hedge against denied and contested battle spaces. That's fancy talk for making sure we can fight and win anywhere, anytime, against anyone. And let me tell you, military lethality matters. The left likes to cringe at that word. They'd rather our armed forces focus on diversity seminars than on making sure their rifles are clean and their jets are fueled. But as a patriot, I believe we must be lethal. Because peace through strength is not just a slogan, it's the only way the world works. Finally, I respect that the speaker admitted this is just the beginning. This isn't a one-and-done deal. Our special operations, our intelligence services, and our security cooperation teams need more resources, more support, and more recognition for the sacrifices they make. These are the men and women, uniformed and civilian alike, who volunteer to step up when the nation calls. We owe them every advantage possible. But here's my concern. Will Congress actually follow through, or will they get distracted by woke nonsense and partisan bickering? We cannot allow the defense of our nation to become a bargaining chip. Our enemies aren't waiting for the next election cycle. They're plotting, they're advancing, and they're testing us every single day. So, here's where I stand. I support this bill. I support strengthening our military. I support standing up to China, Russia, Iran, and any other adversary that wants to challenge the United States of America. And most of all, I support the men and women in uniform, because without them, we don't get to enjoy the freedoms we often take for granted. At the end of the day, America must stay strong. We must stay vigilant. And we must never, ever apologize for being the greatest nation on earth. Because if we don't stand tall, we will fall. And I'll be damned if I let that happen on my watch. Stay strong, stay patriotic, and God bless the United States of America. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you believe in peace through strength and if you want to keep America first.